Yes, folks, it's time for the next part of our MLB preview where we go team by team and break down each club's outlook for the 2024 season. We're ordering these by Fangraphs win projections, and in this video, we're looking at teams 20 through 11 in the standings. Without further ado, let's jump right in. At number 20, it's the New York Mets, projected to finish 4th in the NL East. 2023 was about as far from the script as the Mets could have gotten. With Scherzer and Verlander leading the rotation, Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor leading the lineup, and young talents like Francisco Alvarez on their way up, the Mets had as good a shot as anyone in the NL to challenge the Braves for most wins in the National League. And then baseball happened. Both Scherzer and Verlander were, by their own standards, ineffective, and subsequently shipped out of town at the trade deadline. Alonso did what he does best and hit home runs, but not much else outside of that. And truthfully, the Mets roster the day after the trade deadline was as big a contrast from their opening day squad as exists in baseball. And to add insult to injury, the Mets missed out on virtually every big free agent in the offseason. Ohtani said no, Yamamoto said no, and it seemed like the Mets were headed in the wrong direction, and fast. Add Buck Showalter's mutual dismissal to the list of misfortune for the Mets, and it seems like 2024 will be just an addendum to last season. But with new president of baseball operations David Stearns in charge, the Mets have added quite a few pieces to try and win at the margins rather than with Steve Cohen's bottomless bank account. And while you'd be forgiven for thinking that Luis Severino and Sean Manaea are no way to replace Scherzer and Verlander, the Mets' focus is on 2025 and beyond. It's not like Scherzer and Verlander were the whole team either. Francisco Lindor is still a very productive shortstop. Pete Alonso will probably hit 40 to 50 homers, and Edwin Diaz is on his way back from injury. There might be reason to believe the Mets won't be as bad as depressed Mets fans may have you believe. Fangraphs, though, has the Mets at 80 wins in 2024, 5 more than they had in 2023. I'd agree with that projection, but also be cautious of getting your hopes up too high. They do have to play the Phillies, Marlins, and Braves 13 times a year each. Far from an easy division. At 19 on our list, it's the Miami Marlins, projected to finish 3rd in the NL East. The Miami Marlins were a playoff team in 2023. I know, I didn't quite think I would have been saying that this time last year, but indeed the Marlins had the same record as the eventual National League pennant winners in Arizona. More on them a little later. Thanks to Skip Schumacher's excellent debut season as a big league manager, the Fish managed to make their way to the postseason on the backs of a rock-solid pitching staff and key acquisitions like Jake Burger at the trade deadline. On offense, it's likely the same group of guys who contributed in 2023, Luis Arraez, Jazz Chisholm, Jake Burger, etc. And they'll be hoping that Chisholm can stay healthy and be the electric player who's put on the cover of MLB The Show 23. On the pitching side, it'll probably be all about the lefties Jesus Luzardo and Trevor Rogers, who will have to contribute in a big way, especially with Sandy Alcantara missing extended time. Fangraphs has the Marlins at 80 wins, but honestly, I think they'll stay right where they were in 2023, which is still a good place to be, especially for a young team built on pitching and young stars. I don't think they're 4 wins worse, especially given the talent they have on the roster. The only thing is, can Jazz stay healthy and can the rest of the guys perform? Number 18 on our list is the Cleveland Guardians, projected to finish 2nd in the AL Central. If you want winning at the margins with pitching and defense, very few do it better than the Guardians. But 2023 was a disappointing year for Cleveland, and with Terry Francona now retired, first-year manager Stephen Vogt is going to have a tall task getting Cleveland back to competing for divisions just as they did 2 seasons ago. Despite Jose Ramirez's biggest highlight in 2023 being his knockout of Tim Anderson, he still produced 5.1 wins above replacement with a 123 WRC plus, while hitting 24 homers and stealing 28 bases. Assuming Andres Gimenez is able to bounce back from a disappointing 2023, and Steven Kwan continues to be one of the toughest outs in baseball, the Guardians' offense should continue to do what they do, which frankly is not a whole lot. But when you have a pitching staff like they do, you really don't need a ton of offense. I'd argue Cleveland has the deepest, not the best, but the deepest rotation in baseball. Bieber is a Cy Young Award winner, McKenzie is one of the better young pitchers in the league, Tanner Bibby had a really strong rookie season, and Logan Allen was solid in 24 starts for Cleveland. Really, the only question mark for the Guardians is their offense, and like the last few teams, Fangraphs projects them at 80 wins for 2024. But as far as teams that fly under the radar, none of them do it more or better than Cleveland. At number 17 on our list is the San Francisco Giants, projected to finish 4th in the NL West. Now, I want to preface that I did write this before Blake Snell signed a couple days ago, so read into it what you will, but their outlook obviously looks significantly better now with Snell in the rotation. First, it was Aaron Judge, then it was Ohtani. Then for whatever reason, the Giants are unable to get the mega-star free agents to come to the Bay Area. I'm not sure what it is either, but the Giants have come up short in the free agent market more often than they'd like. And it's a shame because they have such a rich history dating back to their days in New York. For the 2024 season to be different, the Giants need big years from some of the new faces on the roster. Matt Chapman was looking for a longer-term deal, Blake Snell was looking for a longer-term deal, and both of them settled for shorter-term contracts that will give them an opportunity to prove themselves, but also help the Giants win ball games. I've profiled Chapman before, mostly because he was still a free agent as recently as early March, but the two-time Platinum Glove winner should fit well in San Francisco. Blake Snell was also looking for that longer-term deal, but opted for a shorter-term contract instead. Young-Hoo Lee, the grandson of the Wind, should be an on-base machine for the Giants in his debut season in Major League Baseball. But outside of the new guys, there's not a lot of star power in the lineup. Wilmer Flores and Lamont Wade will probably provide a good amount of the offense, as will Matt Chapman, but even so. On the pitching side of the ball, Logan Webb figures to be a Cy Young contender in the NL once again. And with Alex Cobb's recovery from hip surgery well ahead of schedule, there's some optimism in the rotation that should also get Robbie Ray back at some point in the season. And while he didn't quite replicate his Cy Young Award caliber season while with Seattle, a fresh start could help him get his career back on track and look more like the version of himself that won the award in 2021. New manager Bob Melvin will have his work cut out for him for the 2024 season, and despite his credentials, he's got a tall task if he's going to get the Giants to beat the Dodgers and the D-backs. Without Chapman and Snell, it would have been a much more difficult task. Now, things might start to look a little better. At 16 on our list is the Chicago Cubs, projected to finish 2nd in the NL Central. I'm not sure what happened to the Cubs in the second half of 2023, but whatever the reason, it cost David Ross his job and forced the Cubs to only go and replace him with Craig Counsell. The former Brewers manager should be able to take the Cubs back to the top of the NL Central, and this is the first time in the preview series that I actually disagree with Fangraphs projections, and in a pretty big way. The Cubs won 83 games last season, and for whatever reason, Fangraphs thinks they'll win 2 fewer games in 2024. And I honestly think they're trending in the opposite direction, because I'd say they're in good position to win the NL Central now that the Brewers are considerably weaker. The Cubs added Shota Imanaga from the Japanese League, re-signed Cody Bellinger, and will probably have Pete Crow Armstrong play some sort of role in 2024. Add in more regular at-bats for Christopher Morel, and they have an all-around good team on both sides of the ball. Steele and Imanaga will sit atop the rotation, which admittedly is top-heavy, but the NL Central is so wide open that Counsell can mix and match as well as he does, and I honestly think the Cubs should be favorites to win the division, despite projections saying the Cardinals will win the Central. More on them a bit later. At 15 on our list is the Boston Red Sox, projected to finish last in the AL East. For a team that seemingly doesn't care about winning, the Red Sox will still probably win a good number of ball games. They won't be good by any means and will likely finish last in their division, but that's not the worst thing in the world when your division is the AL East. Every other team in the division got better in the offseason except for the Red Sox, which has to be a kick in the groin before you remember that the Red Sox have won 4 championships since the turn of the century, a feat that is equaled by exactly 0 other clubs. Cry me a river, I guess. But seriously, the Red Sox don't have much to look forward to this season outside of Rafael Devers being the best player on the team, Tristan Casas thumping homers from the left side, and Tanner Houck throwing frisbee sliders. Somehow, Alex Cora is the bookies' favorite to get fired first, which is surprising to say the least. They'll also get some more regular ABs from Cedon Rafaela, and Brian Bayo got a nice long-term extension, but again, there's not a ton to look forward to in Red Sox Nation. Guess it'll just be the 4 championships since 2004 then. Coming in at 14 is the San Diego Padres, projected to finish 3rd in the NL West. The other half of the duo for which things didn't go to plan in 2023, the Padres will also look vastly different in 2024. With new manager Mike Shildt at the helm and Juan Soto now donning Yankee pinstripes, the Padres won't have the same expectations they had in 2023. Still, when you sign Machado and Bogarts up for the long haul, you want to get some return on your investment. And of course, Fernando Tatis Jr. won a platinum glove in right field in his first year playing the position full time. Now, I wrote most of this preview for the Padres before they traded for Dylan Cease. If you want to talk about a game changer for a rotation that was without a true ace, Cease is your guy. Yes, he's not Blake Snell, but Cease certainly has the stuff and experience of a Cy Young Award winner just without that hardware. The White Sox finally dealt their ace, and it looks like the Padres season all of a sudden has a little bit more reason for optimism. Still, the rotation outside of Cease, Musgrove, and Darvish is essentially Michael King and knuckleballer Matt Waldron, but I'm interested to see if another knuckleballer can enjoy some longevity in the big leagues a la the late, great Tim Wakefield. Fangraphs project that the Padres will win somewhere around 81 games, which is almost exactly where they were in 2023. I feel like that's a pretty fair assessment, only because they have to play the Dodgers and D-backs 13 times each. And now the Giants are even better too. With Cease, the job becomes a bit easier every fifth day, but as we learned in 2023, you still have to go out and win ball games. Coming in at number 13 is the Texas Rangers, projected to finish third in the AL West. You might be seeing the defending World Series champions outside the top 10 in win projections for 2024 and be confused. Don't worry, I share in your confusion. But when your team wins the World Series, you tend to not care as much as a fan. Despite all the talent and fanfare surrounding the Rangers' first championship in franchise history, Fangraphs thinks the Rangers will take a pretty significant step back from 2023 and win 8 fewer games. But this is another projection where I'd be skeptical if this is going to be accurate. There's talent up and down the lineup, there's a solid rotation that will likely get Jacob deGrom back at some point before the end of the season, and they are led by a manager in Bruce Bochy who knows how to win championships, plural. I'd count out the Rangers at your own peril, but you could be right in assuming they'll take a step back. That said, the Braves did win 101 games a year after winning 88 in the regular season and going on to win the World Series, so really, who knows? Fangraphs projecting the Rangers to win just 82 games in 2024 seems off to me. They did lose Jordan Montgomery and Mitch Garver to free agency, but outside of that, this Rangers team looks very similar to the squad they fielded in 2023. They didn't add any huge names to their roster, but guys like Tyler Mahle and Jared Walsh could make an impact, especially when it comes to having depth at all positions. And with Wyatt Langford well on his way to the show, Texas has that much needed depth for the long haul. Plus, not many World Series champions can say they get to bring one of the best pitchers back into the mix once deGrom is fully recovered from injury. Coming in at number 12 on our list is the Arizona Diamondbacks, projected to finish second in the NL West. After watching them early on last season, I was sure that the Diamondbacks would be a tricky proposition for any team. But even I was caught off guard by the Snakes' improbable run to the World Series in 2023. They fell short of winning it all, but they showed the world that playing within your means as an organization can lead to success when done properly. And with a solid season of work under their belt, the Diamondbacks got better in the offseason by adding Jock Peterson and Eduardo Rodriguez, along with Eugenio Suarez. They figure to have the same cast of characters contributing on both sides of the ball, and it'll be interesting to see how Brandon Pfaadt performs in a full season in the big leagues. The Diamondbacks prove to the rest of the league that once you get into the postseason, anything is possible, especially in this expanded format. Fangraphs has the Answerbacks winning 83 games at the time of this recording, so I'd be curious to see if they beat those projections. Expectations are certainly higher in the desert this season. Coming in at 11th and last for this video is the St. Louis Cardinals, projected to win the NL Central. Here's where Fangraphs and I have a pretty big disagreement. The Cardinals come in at 11th in win total in Major League Baseball this season, but I'm honestly not sure how they figure to have a .500 record, let alone win 83 games as projections suggest. They added Kyle Gibson, brought Lance Lynn back, and signed Sonny Gray to bolster a rotation that wasn't all that good last year. But with Gray on the shelf for opening day, if not longer, I'm not sure who else you can really look at with confidence. Lynn led the majors in home runs allowed in 2023. Gibson was good for Baltimore, but on the wrong side of 30, and despite Gray figuring it out over the last couple seasons in Minnesota, things are different in St. Louis, namely expectations. And then there's the whole Ollie Marmol of it all. Bookmakers think Alex Cora in Boston is favored to get fired first, but I'd argue Marmol should be the first manager on the hot seat. His public shaming of Tyler O'Neill, among other examples, is a bit of a shock for a team that won just 71 games a season ago. Add in the ages of most of their core, Arenado, Goldschmidt, Contreras, and you have a recipe for disaster if they can't figure it out. The so-called best fans in baseball may have that loyalty put to the test if things go the way we think. A 12-game improvement in the win column feels way out of reach, if you ask me, despite Fangraphs projecting them to finish first in the NL Central with 83 wins in 2024. And with all that said, the Cardinals travel to LA to play the Dodgers on opening day. Miles Mikolas gets to face Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman in that order to start the year. Doesn't look good if you're the Cardinals. That's all for now. We'll be diving into the top 10 in our next video, so make sure you're tuned in for that. Definitely quite a few surprises in this one, so make sure you chime in down below with your thoughts on how this next batch of teams is shaping up. If you made it this far, a like is greatly appreciated, and make sure you subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.